What have you made to the start of this season? I've been to a couple of games. I went to the opener against Wrexham, and I went to the derby as well. Uh,
Yeah.
what have you made of what you've seen?
I think there's been I feel like there's been a lack of cohesion at the moment. I think where the squad has changed so much, I think they've found it really difficult to find a pattern of play. Obviously, the team changes quite a bit as well. We've lost players late in the window, so I think it's been difficult for the managers to kind of try and work out his best team. So I think, given all of that, it's probably not surprising the results haven't been what we hoped for. But I would expect to see some improvements now going forward. That the squad is settled, and the manager can work out what his best team is, what his best formation is, and I would expect to see results improving in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult for teams when they've just been relegated because there is that uncertainty in it for the first month of the year about who's staying, who's going.
Yeah.
And you see this a lot, don't you, with the relegated teams? The transfer window, do you think they should do something with that? Because it's so
Yes.
frustrating, isn't it?
It must it must drive current managers absolutely mad. I mean, why they don't just close the window a few days before the season starts, I don't know. It's the most common sense thing you could probably ever do.
Yeah.
And yet we still have transfers going on. A few weeks in, we lost two of our best youngest players, just before the deadline shut. So you play the first kind of 2 or 3 weeks of the season with with this squad, and then all of a sudden you're decimated, and you got to go out and try and replace those players first of all, and then secondly you got to try and then work out what your best team is, what your best formation is going to be, and that takes a little bit of time. So yes, it's been kind of disappointing in terms of the results so far, but I think with everything that happened, it perhaps isn't that surprising.
Yeah, as you say, lots of new players have come in. But of course, on Saturday, a big game really at home to Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough have really hit the ground running, haven't they, under Rob Edwards? And that's a good chance, isn't it, to maybe make a statement there and get a result.
Yeah, I think it is. Although we've already played the team once at home this season. They were top of the league when Stoke came, and they beat us with having a man sent off as well, which again was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, it is a good chance to kind of just give a little bit of impetus to the season, give a little bit of encouragement back to the fans, because I think so far, although the Wrexham game was, pretty awesome in the way that it finished, there's not been a lot to cheer about since then. And I think the crowd will just need a little bit of encouragement because the results haven't been great, and you're starting to hear a few rumblings amongst the crowd that what's going on, why are we so bad, and all that kind of stuff. So one decent result against the team that sits unbeaten this season can change things around quite easily.
Now, of course, Finn Azaz is up against his old club. I mean,
Mm.
I looked at that in the summer, and it seemed a decent signing for me. I mean, I know some Borough fans that are friends of mine. They're very sad to see him go because he was excellent for them. But as you say, it does take players time to get into a team. To settle in a team, and he hasn't quite hit the ground running, has he, Finn?
No, not yet. Not yet. But as you say, it is very early. It's a lot of upheaval in terms of his personal life, as well as trying to fit into a new team. So yeah, I don't like to judge players so early on. You got to give them a chance to settle down and see if we can see the best of them. Let's be honest. I know as a as a professional footballer that you go through periods in your career where sometimes things aren't quite as good as other times.
Yeah.
I had plenty of spells in my career where things were just not working for me. Shots weren't going in, passes weren't reaching their destination, and you've just got to work your way through it. And you've got to have belief in your ability, and just believe that you will get through this stage, and the good times will come.
I mean, there must be plenty of examples, Matt, of teams that you've been in where a player's arrived with high expectations, like Finn. He's got obviously high hopes for him, and it doesn't quite work at the beginning, but then they end up doing really well. Could you perhaps give me some examples of during your playing career with Southampton when that happened?
I think actually, when Mark Hughes came to Southampton, there was quite a lot of expectation. He was a massive name. We couldn't really quite believe that we got this legend coming down to play for us. And to be fair, Mark struggled a little bit to start with, and yeah, I think Dave Jones eventually ended up moving his position to try and um, sort his form out because he ended up going back and play centre midfield. I don't know if you remember,
Mm.
and then he was, I think much more useful to the team in that position. So that's just one example. If you'd give me a bit of time to think about that, I could probably have come up with a few more. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Even um, people like Jose Font in later days. You know, I thought Jose went on to become an excellent centre back. But I'm not sure if my memory serves me right, if he kind of looked that great right from the get go. So I think there's probably plenty of examples down the years, but where with a bit of time, I'd find you a few more.
What have you made of the overall signings? I mean, do you think the business has been pretty good? I mean, they've obviously reinvested the money that they got, haven't they?
Yeah, oh yeah, they're definitely not shy of spending a pound or two. And that's important for the fans to see that there is still, an ambition there, and it's not just an asset stripping thing, which it definitely isn't. So yeah, I think as long as the fans see that, I think they'll be on board and give the manager a little bit of time. That's another thing. The manager's got to have a little bit of time to implement his beliefs on his players, and as I said before, work out what his best team is. I think that's kind of the priority going forward now for Saints is that Will's got to really kind of have a team in his head that he goes, right, this is my go-to team. If things aren't going so good, this is what I think is my best team.
Bringing me on nicely to Will. That was an interesting appointment. That I mean, obviously, he really made a name for himself in Europe. A very young coach. I mean, he's barely in his 30s, isn't he? Remarkable, really, what he's
Yeah.
achieved so far. What did you make of his appointment?
Yeah, I thought it was a really ambitious appointment, to be honest with you. Obviously, his reputation was very good over in France, and he had been, he's got some good years of experience under his belt, despite him himself being quite young. But I think he's very mature. I've had a couple of long chats with him, and I was chatting to him, and at no point did I did I look at him and think, "God, blimey, you're only 32, mate." He's very mature in his outlook, very calm manager. I think he exudes a calm authority, which I think is a good trait for a manager. He doesn't get too high and he doesn't get too low when the results go the wrong way. And I think that's a decent quality to have.
Yeah, and he really has been doing all his research on Southampton. Well, I went and met him myself for about an hour with him, and as you say, I was blown away by how articulate and clever he was for someone so young. But he was looking back at the glory days. He was watching videos of back when you were playing. He was watching videos of when Poch was in charge. So he's getting a real feel for the club, and obviously he's been chatting to you as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's important for managers who come into a football club to actually have some context of the history of the club. And get a feel for what the fans kind of expect at the club. Because at Southampton, we're pretty realistic as a fan base. We're not expected to go and win the Premier League every year. But there is an expectation that, we try to play good, attractive football. And we want to see some kind of excitement in the opposition goalmouth. And when that doesn't happen, and we spend too long passing it around at the back and then giving away possession in our own final third, which is what happened a lot last season, then the fans start to get a bit frustrated. So I don't think it's rocket science. The fans want to see good, positive attacking play, get the ball in the box as often as we can, and get people on the edge of their seats.
I mean, one of obviously last season only got 12 points, so an abysmal season, of course. I think Derby wasn't it
Yeah.
the only team that's got less points. But he was saying that I went to the Pompey game and he made a point of saying he kind of felt like Southampton weren't doing enough to try to win the game. It was a bit too risk-free. They've got to start being not afraid to win games, if you like, or not afraid to lose, I suppose, to try and get the wins.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a mindset that needs to be instilled in the players because I think there's probably a few players from last season who've got a bit of PTSD. And it would take a bit of time mentally to recover from a season like that. Going getting battered every week to then all of a sudden turning up and the crowd are expecting you to win. And That's a very different mindset you need, and they've got to kind of get out of the mindset from last season, and take a new mindset into this season. So hopefully a couple of victories will help along the way. Yeah, they've been a little bit unfortunate. I think should have beaten Watford away, went ahead a couple of times in that game. A little bit of sloppy defending, which was kind of what we were saying last season. There was a lot of sloppy defending, so we've got to try and get out of that habit of making just really simple errors that lead to goals and cost you points.
And I was just asking about the gap between the Championship and the Premier League. It's getting wider all the time, as we know. It's well documented, but of course, we've had 2 seasons now where the three that have gone up have gone down. I mean, this season's been a bit more positive. We've seen Leeds get results. We've seen Sunderland, even Burnley have won a match already. Um, but what needs to be done to bridge that gap? Do you think? I mean, the resources are just absolutely different stratosphere, aren't they, in the Premier League? And it's all about trying to get that foothold in the Prem when you're there.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, you saw what Nottingham Forest did. The first season that they came up, they're a massive influx of players there to try and help keep them up. They just about stayed up the first season, and then you see that after that, they went from strength to strength. Bournemouth were the same. Bournemouth has done amazing. I mean, for a club of that size to do what they're doing is just absolutely phenomenal. I think that they go under the radar a little bit. I don't think they get as much credit as they deserve. Brighton are another team that kind of did it. Brentford. So it is possible to do it and get a foothold. But as you say, that first season is the one that you've got to just keep yourself, by whatever means necessary, just try and keep yourself in the Premier League. Get the finances coming in so that you can then buy some better players and give yourself a chance the following season. I think actually one of the reasons that we have seen the same teams going up and down the last couple of seasons, I think is because of the PSR rules. I really think they're a handicap to the smaller teams. And I think those rules, although I don't know, they may have been put in place with the best of intentions, I think we have to take a look at those rules now and say, okay, what has it really done? What has really been the effect of this? And all it's doing is protecting the big boys at the top.
Yeah.
And I think we need to look at that now and come up with a better way of doing it.
Now, just finally, Matt, how are you doing? Sort of, what were you up to at the moment? What's taking up most of your time nowadays?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'm a director at Sholing Football Club. They play in the league just under the Conference South. Started the season pretty well. We've had 3 wins, 4 draws in the first 7 games. So that's been a good start. I'm doing some work with Southampton Football Club. I do my after-dinner speaking, a few other appearances here and there. And yeah, I just kind of play a bit of golf and try to keep the handicap down. I love my paddle tennis. So I still play loads of sports. I'm playing loads of golf. I still play football for our ex-Saints team. So yeah, life's pretty good, mate. Can't complain.